Dyer wave.
3.
Our anthropology is not derived by human psychology or, empirical data from MIT or something like this. It's derived from the revealed aspect of what we see in Christology. And so there's no real way to diagnose man's problem and to understand man and man's anthropology, as I said, without the right theology.
What's up? How my peeps? How y'all doing? How y'all doing? So we're not getting the Zoom meeting. Window capture. Here we go. We'll make a new one. We'll make a new one so we can get our buddy up in here. Come on now. What is going on? It's just, it never ends. It never ends. The problems, the tech problems, they never end. Let's see. Maybe it is. Yes, by the way, everybody, we're going to have our boy Bermas up in the house. Where is the window capture? I've never had this happen before, where the Zoom meeting does not show up. Weird. We got this. Is that it? There we go. Yeah, there we go. All right. That's weird. Every time. The problem is that whenever you. By the way, have you noticed that Apple has an update like every day now? And I'm trying to tell you people, every time Apple updates, right? All right, it says he's a participant. There we go. Every time Apple updates, dude, we get freaking default settings, right? It all goes back to default. When you got it all nice and pretty and perfect like you had it, and then Apple, the little Apple demon says, how can we screw these retards up? I know, let's put it back to the default settings. And this retard won't remember a year ago how he got it where he wanted it. And that's what happens. So here we are. I'm sorry. Everything went back to defaults and then the computer wouldn't start. So we got our boy, Jason Bermas. He is here. How you doing, Jason?
Good, man. Good.
Awesome. I'm so sorry about that typical nonsense that we have going on around here with Mr. Tim Cook trying to mess up our motherboard over on this side of things. Anyway, Jason has done some good stuff in terms of speaking to the people over at Rokfin. And so this is going to maybe kind of kick off the stuff that I want to put over on Rokfin. So it's going to be public for you guys. But yes, I just talked to all the Rokfin dudes. And of course, Jason is the big man on campus over at Rokfin. He's the star of Rokfin. I went over there and I subscribed to him, and I noticed he's got you got a bunch of groupies over there, dude. I'm jealous.
I wouldn't go that far, but it is nice. Number one, these alternative platforms have been around since even the days of YouTube's infancy. I remember Blip.tv. Obviously, Vimeo's the most notable one to survive since then. Google was its rival with Google Video before it bought it. And along the way, there's kind of been all these different promises of arrival, right? And you saw, the bigger platforms like Twitter and Periscope, because Periscope was its own thing, and then it got absorbed as well. And just like Instagram was its own thing, that got absorbed by Facebook when that got too big. And all of a sudden you saw an explosion of all these, and Minds.com, to their credit, Float is out there. There's many of them. Odyssey is doing great things, especially in the case of backing up my entire YouTube channel, which is almost 2,000 deep, when we know it might not be there tomorrow at this point. So awesome. But about a year ago, I got fully demonetized, Jay.
Yeah, me too.
And the bottom line is, I'd been working for We Are Change before that. I'd quit my day job. I kind of reinvested my whole life in this again. I've been doing this now on and off 15 years, but really just been somebody who's been curious about the whole universe, I guess. Isn't that the thing? Don't we all want the real truth and the real answers to the universe? And that's why I really like your stuff. It's because a lot of times the answers, unfortunately, are deeper. You got to watch how far you fall down these rabbit holes, etc. But the underlying theme is, we're constantly being lied to. So these guys approach me and they're like, we have this platform and we can monetize your stuff. And for those that don't know, if your audience doesn't know why this is a really great platform, is I get to choose, number one, what's behind a paywall and what's not. Okay? That's a big thing. So if I want to give everything away for free, I absolutely can. And that's cool. Now, if it's behind the paywall and you want to support me instead of a Patreon type thing, because I've always not liked any kind of tiered system. Like, well, if you give me $5, I'll give you a super chat. Well, if you give me $10, you get this exclusive t-shirt, whatever deal. It never appealed to me. I would love to be able to give everything away for free and be on a fair platform, be able to get super chats from people on YouTube and be able to do that. We know that's not a reality anymore, right? But for $9.99 a month, you don't just get my stuff. You get all these other creators. But what's even cooler for me is by the time they approached me, they were a niche in the fact that they were collegiate wrestling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and like my favorite sport, MMA. So they had people like Chael Sonnen already on there. I do an MMA podcast once a week with John Fitch. I'm personal friends with Pat Miletich now that I've moved to Iowa.
Cool.
This is a huge appeal to me, right? And actually, I call fights. I'm going to be calling live fights 3 nights in a row this coming week, Thursday through Saturday, Jay.
Cool.
CagedAggression.tv, go check it out.
Awesome.
Trying to get them over on Rokfin. So for that value of $9.99, it really is like a Netflix for creators. So the other thing is, they were very open with me about this platform. They're like, you're going to get so much value via crypto, this $9.99 every time this card is swiped. So if you do decide to endorse me or you endorse Jay, which I totally want you guys to do, and then you go watch my content that's behind the paywall, I still earn money. So that way, it's very fair. And they've now added a tip feature where it's like a super chat. It's live right there in the chat. And it's a little rusty. It's 2, 5, 10, 20, I think 50 and 100, but it's there and people are using it. And what's really cool about it, Jay, is when you're on YouTube, for instance, you either have to be premiering or live for somebody to give you a super chat, right?
Right.
I can get a tip on a video a week ago. You can tip on any video that's out there at any time. You don't have to be a subscriber, so you could just be coming along. Now, the caveat and what is actually very good is, in my opinion, to keep away trolls and to keep away people that would bring content that would, be pirate. You see what happens, or too graphic, or stuff that would absolutely be maybe even borderline illegal to get it taken down. You have to go through the process. I don't know how Jay didn't pass through the process at first. His stuff has been great. I think he's going to be a great fit over at Rokfin. But you keep that out, and then if you want to see all my free content, you have to make you can't just watch it yet. They're bringing that, but you make an account, a free account, and you can see all my free content. And what's even cooler is if they sign up through me or they sign up for you, you actually get their.
All right. I think I should be back. All right. Yes, it worked. Okay. So now we gotta just pipe that dude back in. Yo, pipe that dude in. That sounds nasty, but that's what we gotta do. Yo, pipe that dude in. Ooh, gross. Quit saying that. Okay, I will. Welcome back, everybody. Tennessee internet runs on the souls of dead hamsters, if you didn't know. It runs on grandmama's biscuit juice. My grandmama's biscuit juice runs the internets in Tennessee. And, that hasn't happened in a long time. The internet hadn't just crashed like that in a long time. But maybe the internet has a long-standing vendetta, the art of Ken Lee, against your boy Bermas there. Your boy Bermas. So, welcome everybody. Hope you're having a good time. I don't know why we got these angry haters with this 5 thumbs, 6 thumbs down when we got such a beautiful man, Jason Bermas, with us. That is a beautiful man, and y'all want to thumb him down? What is wrong with your souls? Y'all need to go do the Romans road and repent. I'm turning into Theo Vaughn again. Anyway, so I guess I have to restart the Zoom. So I'm restarting a Zoom meeting. And we're going to bring beautiful Bermas in once again. Am I live? Are y'all seeing me? Says the connection good. Yeah, are we good? Is everybody good? How are y'all feeling? How's your feelings? Do a little counseling session tonight with y'all. Do a little Freudian analysis. Get you laid out on my couch. Tell me about your mama and your dirty, dirty dreams on the couch, on my Freud couch. On my fainting couch. For all the soys in the audience, all the little new males, so y'all can come faint on the couch. All right, I think we got the room started back up. Look at how everybody comes back. Everybody just drops out, right? Like there's one internet problem and 50 people just leave. Y'all got a patience problem. Got a lot of people out there with a patience problem. This internet has made you just feel like everything is just instantaneous and you deserve it all. I want it all, right? Like Lisa from the room. I want it all. Let's see. End the other meeting. I think we have to end that meeting because he's not in here anymore. Yes, end that meeting. Come on now. There we go. There we go. Starting back, baby. Right. So that wasn't too bad. We had 5 minutes of downtime. A lot of you kids don't even know y'all have grown up. You know, 5 minutes of downtime, you think that's bad? In my day, it took 5 minutes of downtime to download the remix version of Delirium on LimeWire. So you think you kids got it bad? You have no idea. If I was going to download the remix version of Junkie XL of New Kids on the Block. That took at least 5 minutes. So you kids you have no idea how good you have it. Yeah, okay. Now we're going to get Bermas back up in here. Or I could just pretend to be Bermas and interview myself as Bermas, which I've done in the past. Not as Bermas, but with my alters, right, in my head after my MK Ultra programming. Okay, we got a new link here for Zoom, and then I'm going to send this to Bermas. How y'all doing tonight? How's the audience tonight? Everybody good? I can't see the chat now. I'm going to write Tim Cook a strongly worded email, and it's going to be, I'm going to CC Bill Gates and who's the Apple genius that died. I'm going to CC him in it anyway, even though he has passed on. And it's going to be a strongly worded letter to these people that all these Apple updates are not helping. So you code boys need to get your act together. All right, what's down? You know, Rokfin they must have lowered their standards, because they let, dilettantes and dubious individuals such as Tristan Haggard up on there. Well, I guess if they're letting Tristan's on, then they can let me on, right? That was my reasoning. And I emailed the Rokfin boys. I said, look, y'all letting these questionable people, these people of questionable morals, right, such as Tristan, aka Little AIDS. Now, if they're letting people like Tristan on there, and I'm like, but y'all don't want me on Rokfin? And then, you know what they said? They were like, you have a point. We are not consistent. And yes, we have lowered our morals, and we will allow you on, given that we've allowed Tristan on. That's literally what they said. So I'm sending Bermas, beautiful, beautiful Jason Bermas, another link. He will be back in a second. But I did see Tristan earlier in the chat. Of course, once we start actually making Tristan jokes, he flees the chat. That's usually how it goes. He just shows up to, make a few passing comments, and then he disappears. But now, why is that stupid thing froze? Oh, that's the old Zoom, isn't it? I look like a fucking goober there, dude. What is going on with these computers tonight, man? Why is that? Okay, we're just gonna maybe we'll have to start with a new room, a new window capture. See, now y'all know why I was getting so mad about the computers, right? What is going on? It's frozen. What the heck, dude? That is not correct. That is, I mean, I know y'all would like to speak to a frozen in space and time version of me, but we really want Jason Bermas in here. This has just been a disaster tonight. A disaster. Zoom, there we go. What? Oh, there it is. Dude, this is just ridiculous, man. This whole thing is just shot. I'm about to throw this damn iMac out the window. This is ridiculous. We've been here doing this for how long? We've never had this many problems. Tim. All right, let's see. This is the exact same problem that we just had like 5 minutes ago. Why is he not in? Why is that not there? It's ridiculous. Look at that. This is preposterous. This always works, right? I had all of this shit set the way, oh, I know what it is. You got to click that and that, don't you? There we go, baby. What's up? We got a giant Bermas now. Jason Bermas. What's up? Are you there? Look at that. It made... This is so stupid. Like, it turned into a massive, gigantic... I mean, why would it even do that? This is so F and G. F and G. You know what I mean by F and G, right? These computers are F and G. Y'all know what I'm talking about. All right, there we go. Yes. Is he here? Yes, he is. Eesh, here we go. All right. I would say I apologize, but I'm tired of apologizing for computers and shit. So, what the fuck is that, dude? It just says invite.
What's up, brother?
I've never had. Hey, I mean, I can hear you. I've never had this many problems. So I apologize.
No. You're done apologizing. You're goddamn done apologizing, Jay Dyer.
Right.
That's right.
So now you're not even here. You're here, but
Really?
you're not. There you are. What the fuck is? Look at this. This has never done this before.
What do you use, OBS?
Streamlabs OBS. You know what I think it is? I think there is a Apple update, and if you do not keep Apple update up to date, then Streamlabs can't keep up with it, and it always screws up. But I think I finally got you fixed here. It's just that you're a giant now. You're like you're an Anunnaki now. So I have to keep shrinking you down to fit on the screen here.
I'll just use...
Okay, so now you were talking about the advantages of Rokfin. It was you were right in the middle of the excellent points about why it's such a good deal. And if you want to, feel free to pick back up where you were if you remember where that was.
Sure. I mean, just to say it again, you can tip at any time on any video. You don't have to be a paying premium member to do so, right? You can live stream on the platform, which is not available on all these platforms as well, which is awesome. They're going to be updating their apps shortly, but the way they pay you in Ray also lets you invest in the network by saving. When we first started discussing this, I think the Ray token was around 33 cents. Now, with the recent craze in crypto, it peaked at about $5.
Wow.
And then it's dipped down to like right under $3. But the bottom line is I truly believe in this network because we're bringing in value. They're not censoring me. So the new thing that I'm doing on my broadcast is we talk about certain things. And then maybe a headline is just a little too spicy to get in. I don't know if you've seen this headline, for instance. We won't read it because I know that you're streaming this on YouTube. But we put it up. And maybe we just read the headline, but then we get into it. And what we're showing you is how an expert has said this rare COVID arm is a good sign that your immune system is working. So experts are now telling you that this is a good sign. I don't want to get into all of it, but we would do that on Rokfin.
Right,
and they're not going to
exactly.
censor me for talking about certain treatments or medical studies or any of that. Because right now we're on strike 2. I got 2 strikes for playing the Senate hearing in which Dr. Pierre Corey talks about the drug ivermectin, as farthest I'll go, and Jones's interview. When Alex and I get together and we're not talking about interdimensional elves or maybe more of the esoteric stuff,
Right.
and we're talking about COVID 1984, we're putting up WHO documents. Apparently that's not allowed either. That's also medical misinformation. So we're saving that for the Rokfin. And what I've been doing slowly over the year is moving people at least over as followers. And then I've got a decent paying base, you know, like this is making it possible for me not only to survive in this unprecedented moment of censorship and digital censorship, but thrive and expand.
Right.
You know, I moved from New York to Iowa, and I fully plan. I'm looking at properties right now. Fully plan on expanding and doing even more of this because more of it has to be done. And I'm sure that you know that you've been involved. This is an acceleration of a very real transhumanist agenda. That is what this is about. There is no doubt about it. They want to get you subservient. They want you on a UBI, dependent, slave, track, trace, database nation with a social credit score. And the next step is you're going to shed your body because that's what this transgender movement is. It isn't boy or girl or be one or the other and what you want to be. No, no, no. We already had that. Like when I was a kid, it was called a transvestite and it was post-op or pre-op. And usually it had to do with you being adult. Now they're telling you, forget about that and even forget about the surgery. You can be non-binary, right? And we're already building avatars that you're going to interact with of your grandparents via chats. Soon they'll say, don't worry, you're going to shed this body. And you can just upload your consciousness to whatever form you want. The Kurzweilian singularity we've all been promised.
Right.
And it's here, man. It's on an accelerated basis. And we all know that is a very anti-human agenda. And, you know, I want to applaud you for bringing that to the forefront because people need to hear that. That's tough to hear. It's not just a sci-fi movie. The technology is here. DARPA's on a roll right now. They literally, you have Joe Biden, who's probably not awake more than 4 hours a day, on television, reading off a prompter barely, talking about how DARPA is now going to have a DARPA-like initiative to take out cancer and other diseases. Meanwhile, we're going to have all these contact tracers. But hey, you can't scream on a roller coaster in California. Not a transhumanist agenda.
I was at a restaurant the other day and they were like telling people that they couldn't cut the sandwich in half. Somebody got a sandwich and they're like, we can't touch the sandwich because of COVID. And everybody was like, how did you make the sandwich? And literally the server was like they had not thought about the fact that like they put the sandwich together in the back. And then when asked to cut the sandwich on the plate to take it with somebody, they were like, I can't touch your sandwich because of COVID. It's like the amazing level of getting people to, you know, to surrender common sense and just basic, like what is right in front of your face is, I think, the most amazing, striking thing for me, right? Because, you know, if you've read dystopian fiction or if you've followed this kind of stuff, when you read 1984, you think, oh yeah, that's wild. You know, O'Brien is able to, you know, tell Winston that, you know, you see 4 fingers and I want you to say 5, right? And it sounds wild in fiction until you see it in your face in the restaurant when people are like, you present this to them and they double down and they're like, yeah, but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it doesn't make sense. Like that's the mandate. That's the law, they say. They'll say that's the rule, right? As if these rules make reality. It's just, it's amazing.
It's the wildest thing. And as you know, they want more of a soft acquiescence. They want people to just kind of surrender and not fight back. And now they're utilizing nostalgia and corporate tools and sports, especially with Cuomo, who's now in a sexual assault or inappropriateness scandal. Forget about all the authoritarian lockdowns and dictates. Forget about before COVID 1984 with catch and release. We had another guy in New York literally arrested 3 times, Jay, 3 times in 24 hours in New York State. Okay, that's this catch and release. He did all this pre-COVID 1984. He took away the boop religious exemption, even if you had it, again, all pre-COVID 1984. Total criminal. Andrew Capo Cuomo jokes with Fauci about being the original De Niro Pacino team, 2 guys that made their bones as gangsters. Gets an Emmy while he does it, by the way. And the scandals about sexual assault and not all these authoritarian dictates that have ruined small businesses, that have tripled crime in New York State. I mean, none of that. Forget about it. And then, of course, the nursing home scandals and the fact that now he has decried that you may go to a Mets game and you may go to a Yankees game at 20% capacity if you show your proof of vaccination or that you've had a recent negative test. Oh, thank you, Lord Cuomo. And this is a disturbing reality. You know, we talk about dystopia, and they've been now the first place in the United States to roll out Spot, the DARPA robot, on the streets as their police dog. That's what defund the police always was. Again, another step in that transhumanist movement. You could see it in the beginning of this, for instance, when Singapore had Spot, the DARPA robot. See, he's yellow in Singapore, and he's blue on the streets of New York. All right? And in Singapore, in the beginning, he's traveling around the parks, and he's telling everybody when they're too close, it's 1 meter. Please stay 1 meter apart. So this is like 12 months ago.
Yeah.
Anybody can look at these videos. And now, you know, again, we've got these actual robots, and forget about just social distancing. They're helping police enforce crime. Meanwhile, they're crying the police and cuffing their hands. I mean, we're in wild times. And the other thing about this whole transhumanist agenda is eventually they want to pit a large enough portion of the populace against people who want humanity, against people that no matter what your religious belief is, believe in some kind of a soul and a morality and something beyond the matrix-like universe they're now selling, the multiverse they're now selling to you, right? The simulation they're now selling to you. And I believe that's all part of it. You know, with quantum computing, there's definitely something there. With artificial intelligence, there's definitely something there. But when they tell you there's an infinite amount of realities in this multiverse, well, then that almost sounds like you have no choice. You have no free will. And again, in all the major religions, that's kind of the point. You have the free will to fuck it up or do the right thing, period. No matter what you believe. And I'm not trying to preach to anybody, but when you look at the people at the top that are promoting this, are they good people? Are they moral people? Or do they remind you of a predator class sociopathic entity that would do anything to dominate us?
Yeah.
You have to ask yourself that question. And I believe good and evil exists, Jay. I see it every day.
Yeah.
You know, if you can't see that simple thing, again, you've been blinded by this reinforced celebritard culture that we've all been now immersed in the last 20 plus years. And you gotta find a way to at least slightly unplug yourself from it and be able to analyze things and look at things a little bit differently. And again, another kudos to you. That's why I love some of your stuff, is because you take a look at that pop culture stuff. You know, we did that video on the Super Bowl. That's just a small part of it. We're literally, again, drenched in this stuff daily.
Absolutely, yeah. By the way, everybody, if you do want to see the interview that we did, that's over on Jason's Rokfin. You can go check that out there if you subscribe to him. Maybe rewind a little bit, and because I think back to about 2003, and Loose Change. I saw some clips from that video, or maybe 2004, somewhere in there, and that was kind of a thing that sparked my original awakening to like the bigger geopolitical stuff. I'd read a few things on conspiracy in the United Nations and some John Birch level stuff, but you and the work that Alex did really kind of propelled me into looking into the bigger geopolitical sphere, and then looking into how this is all moving towards one final goal of global government, etc. I just want to get your take on, I mean, having looked at this for 15, 20 years, isn't this kind of blowing you away that we're at the very thing that you talked about 15, 20 years ago? Does it blow you away?
Well, it blows me away most of all is that there are still some people in denial about all of it. And, they can't go back and say, look at my film Invisible Empire, A New World Order Defined that I did with Alex, right? Now, that was something that was kind of my baby as we were making Loose Change Final Cut. Second edition had taken off. I was able to actually start doing this full time with the two other guys. We were making the final cut together. But eventually, I had been doing so much research after awakening to 9/11. And, a lot of people ask me, you talk about all these heavy things. How are you such a happy guy? You got to find solutions, right? I definitely wasn't happy in New York. I got to tell you, I'm a lot happier here in Iowa.
Right.
You got to navigate this. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. You got to change it as much as possible. You got to use truth to your advantage, and you got to fight hard. But again, when you look in retrospect, right, I put all this stuff out in 2010, from like 2005 to 2010. Like, I even made another film with Alex about 9/11 called Fabled Enemies in Between.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, where I didn't want any of, and the irony of that one is, Jay, that if you look at that now, almost 13 years later, we're about to have the 20th anniversary, right? That movie has zombie Joe Biden in it when he's Joey B, when he's corrupt as fuck, okay? Exposing him covering up the Pakistani monetary role in 9/11.
I was about to ask you about the Pakistan, the General Mahmoud, right? The money.
Well, here's what's crazy about the whole thing. So now I guess we'll take a sidestep from what I was talking about. Let's get to Invisible Empire in a second. But
okay.
So you look at this exchange. This is Luke Radowski, We Are Change. He's done incredible work over the years as well. He confronts him about the General Mahmoud Ahmed money wire. For those not aware of this, $100,000 the week before goes to Ada. It's directly wired via the head of the Pakistani ISA, which is basically the CIA.
Yeah, CIA set them up, yeah.
Now, this guy ends up being in D.C. on the morning of 9/11, General Mahmoud Ahmed. Now, the really interesting thing is there's a middleman in it, okay? And his name is Omar Saeed Sheikh. We will come back to him because he's extremely important. So Ahmed is meeting with all these people in the week of 9/11. We're talking about George Tenet, the head of the CIA, Condoleezza Rice, even though she denies it on camera when asked about it. Later on, it's in the film. We couldn't prove she denied it, but later on, FOIA documents showed it. But on the morning of 9/11 in particular, he's meeting with Bob Graham and Porter Goss. Porter Goss will later become the head of the CIA.
Head of CIA, yeah.
Yeah, and those two will actually chair the initial congressional investigation into 9/11, the one where we had those 20 plus pages redacted, and then eventually most of that was unredacted, but not all of it, right? So he's meeting with those guys on the morning of 9/11. Now, after 9/11, he meets with Joe Biden. Joe Biden actually goes on television, says he's the first, if not the, or maybe the second most powerful man in Pakistan. Brags about his meeting. This whole thing, I've done an entire video on it. But he ends up getting asked about it with Luke. And he basically says, well, we didn't arrest Khrushchev when he came. So he's equating this guy who, again, the big fear was the funding of the hijackers. Who was it? How did this happen? And you had Pakistani intelligence. They end up telling us the attacks cost $500,000. And they're saying that Pakistani intelligence paid for 1/5. And they're never like named in the war on terror. Okay, that doesn't make sense, right?
Yeah.
So basically, Joe Biden tells Luke to get a life. And then Luke confronts him again a second time. And this time, Joe Biden admits it's classified. Now, why is this important to this day? Well, that middleman, Omar Saeed Sheikh, he also happens to be the guy that gets convicted of Daniel Pearl's murder.
Yeah.
Daniel Pearl is the original beheading boogeyman video of all time. Al-Qaeda is beheading people. Now, Pearl had actually went into the Middle East.
Right. Under what was it, Wall Street Journal?
Yeah, he was a mainstream journalist. And he was trying to actually find the roots of the funding of these terror networks.
Right.
And, you know, the story goes that Omar Saeed Sheikh is the guy that set up his capture and murder. Maybe he wasn't there while they tortured him, but he's the guy. So he actually gets convicted of that. All right. All these years later, brother, it gets overturned. He never goes to jail. If you remember Benazir Bhutto, or she was assassinated.
Right.
She actually said that Omar Saeed Sheikh assassinated bin Laden on camera. She said he had arranged his murder. This is long before the Navy SEAL raid. Okay. Omar Saeed Sheikh got it turned over in Saudi Arabia. Omar Saeed Sheikh right now, and these are developments over the last 6 to 12 months, is in a safe house in the UK. He has all the fingerprints of a multi-level agent. All those fingerprints and connections to Biden before he even becomes vice president. That's the network we're living in. And to circle it back to Invisible Empire, the network I lay out of people over the last 100+ years calling for globalism, saying New World Order by name, going through these policies, talking about eroding not only, the family, but things like rugged individualism in favor of collectivism in all shapes and forms. In fact, I often talk about this because people want to say it's some right-wing conspiracy. I point back to Samuel Zane Batten's book, which is New World Order, and he comes at it from a very Christian and evangelical angle. But then you start reading this stuff, and it's literally all the same collectivist garbage. So, as well as I do, modern day churches have, subverted reality as well in favor of a lot of these globalist agendas.
Yeah, many of them are pretty much either money laundering fronts, or they are themselves kind of attaches of the Pentagon. Pentagon has a long history of using, especially evangelical missionaries in other countries, but it's also occurred with the Vatican too. There's a close connection between Vatican and the CIA. So, yeah, there's no that's pretty, I think, well established nowadays. Yeah.
So at the end of the day, Jay, and no matter how you slice it, as you watch all these things happen and people still be in denial, you can kind of go one of two ways, right? You can believe all, I grew up a Christian. I remember Revelations. I remember even in the 80s, people warning me about the mark of the beast and the microchip. And, me originally thinking, Satanism was just the goth kid in high school that couldn't get laid, and not realizing, the actual history into all this stuff, and think, hey, man, that's very real. We're going to go through this no matter what. Or you can also take the very, very real position that these people are into the cult. Many of them done wicked and evil things that have been exposed that they've never paid for their crimes for. They're openly talking about this singularity, this fourth industrial revolution, uploading consciousness. It's everywhere in the media, and they're working towards that. And as a human being, you should want to fight it.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the only two options for me. And I'm not a prophecy guy or anything like that, but these people do believe it. I do believe there are some of these people that believe they're tapping into something with their otherworldly powers. For instance, I actually have 8 of the original annals from the Bohemian Grove, and they don't come out annually. They come out, in segments. I'm only missing a couple. And you start reading it, and a lot of it is very internal, fraternity type stuff, elitist stuff. But they refer to that body, by the way, as their middle class. That's one of the very eye-opening things. And that, I believe that's in the artwork one. There's a music one, an artwork one. But one of the really interesting things is a guy named Wilfred Bromley. And they call him Uncle Bromley. He went over, he took a trip to China in the late 1800s.
Not the diabetes Wilfred Brimley.
Not Brimley. But you know what? It looks like Brimley in his day, if you shaved that mustache and you took glasses off, he could have played Bromley, no problem. If you've ever seen, the pre-owl statue, and when they have the Buddha in the background and the very open druidic ritual pictures, Bromley is the man in the head, in the large, Vatican-like head. So he actually came back from a trip from China, and there's just like a little two-sentence excerpt about it, but he's the one that wanted to start bringing in the druidic rituals. And there were members, you got to remember, this is from 1872, but they hijacked it. It was kind of around before then, in San Francisco, but it was mostly like the artisans and, people that were in that area.
The Bohemian types. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's where they got the name, and they liked them as a party group, and it over time became more and more politically influential. But Bromley did take it in that occult direction, and there were people that objected. And if you know what the cremation of care is, that is a Bromley right there. He's the guy who's bringing that in, and that is basically, hey, we're working together. We might have to do some pretty wicked, evil shit to do so, but we're going to come back here and party, and we're going to kick it off by everybody just absolving their conscience of whatever they did and working towards that same goal again. That cremation of care is, a cremation of your soul, of your care, of your worry, of any of the baggage that you may be holding.
Your conscience, right? Care, conscience, concern, right?
That's right. And the thing is that in their books, they portray care as evil. Like care is usually actually portrayed as death. You know, when death comes up with the effigy in some of their cartoons and artwork, they do the same thing. You know, so, you know, it's been an interesting journey to kind of see the insight of these people too. You can't ignore those things. You can't ignore, for instance, that, oh, the Bohemian Grove, that's just a club of a bunch of rich white guys that want to get drunk and maybe bone some gay prostitutes. Not a big thing. And I'm like, well, no, actually, the talks at the Grove and the club in particular, which is in San Francisco and not in Sonoma, are what brought us nuclear bombs and war.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Star Wars Defense Initiative that was launched at Bohemian Grove.
And when you say that to somebody, all of a sudden their eyes perk up, and I'm like, now you think about that technology. I'm like, honestly, that technology about as far as we've been led to publicly. Can you imagine what they're actually doing there?
Yeah.
I mean, that's Eisenhower, that's Reagan, that's Nixon. We're talking Bush level. Like one of the pics, I think it is publicly available online, but obviously I have it in the book, you know, is Bush dressed up in the 80s with a bunch of spooks. Like they're putting on a little show where Bush is in the middle and he's with the CIA, and they're all in like the overcoats and the glasses and the classic, like almost Dan Aykroyd Dragnet spy type outfit.
Right.
So, you know, they're doing this, and people can think it's a game, but I assure you, there are some people that take it extremely seriously,
right.
And they have throughout history, and that's kind of been erased from the consciousness as well, Jay.
So, fast forward maybe a little bit. Yeah, then, by the way, that's great because I don't actually know that we have covered Bohemian Grove amazingly on this channel. You would think that sometimes we miss like the obvious things because we just charge past stuff that we're like, you know, oh yeah, everybody knows about No, actually, a lot of people don't know about Bohemian Grove. So I really appreciate you bringing that up because we haven't really touched on it on my channel, and it needs to be talked about because it's one of the classic examples. But maybe let's fast forward a little bit and talk about modern examples of similar types of networks and secret societies and cults, such as I noticed you did a lot of in-depth research on the NXIVM cult and on Mr. Epstein. So is there any tie-ins that maybe you could, because by the way, I'd forgotten about the whole thing with Biden being directly in a sort of footballing sort of coaching that situation with General Mahmoud. I'd totally forgotten that too. What about NXIVM, Epstein, and these cults? How do you see that playing into this? Because here we have some pretty mainstream news stories that have come out over the last couple of years that are pretty revealing. Once again, people forget this, they overlook it, they ignore it. And you went really deep into that. Do you have any details you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, well, you look at, first of all, Epstein, right? That's something I was covering, you know, in my baby step days with InfoWars. You know, 2008, 2009, we were covering it, we were talking about it. And, you know, the craziest thing about that people need to understand is publicly now we know that Maria Farmer went to the NYPD and the FBI all the way back in 1996.
Wow. That long ago. Wow.
Yes. And we didn't get our first taste of these stories until the Palm Beach scandal. So that had already been brushed under the rug almost a decade, and then had to be reconfirmed all the way back in, I believe it was about 2017 when the first reports of Maria came out. And I think I had her on the program 2018 or 19.
Wow.
And I was the last interview she did. And I taught, and I love Maria. Thank God for her. But the fact of the matter is, she may not even be the first whistleblower. Mm-hmm. She's the first whistleblower that now came forward and can be proven to be true. So we're talking about a network that's 20 plus years old. And, you know, there was information out there that, you know, to go beyond the occult stuff, but that Adnan Khashoggi was also involved with Epstein. And you look at this network that Epstein follows, you have to wonder, was he part of that Iran-Contra crew? You know, that same dirty 80s crew that was basically running guns through Israel. Israel would get the guns from Poland and Czechoslovakia, all this for plausible deniability. They'd ship them down. Then the Contras would ship back up the money and the drugs payment. And then obviously that would be distributed via black operations for the profiteering of all and washing the money. So we already know about the Franklin scandal. We know about the Finders. That's all in the same network time. There's a new great podcast out there that Investigation Discovery, by the way, did the best 3-part Epstein special. They have a new one called The Clown and the Candy.
Yes, I've been telling everybody to listen to that.
It is absolutely a must listen to, because you have the same type of things happening only with these younger boys that we
70s.
only saw remnants of when they began finally addressing what was happening with the Boy Scouts and what was happening with the Catholic Church. And you have to understand that is surface level. Okay, you got a priest. The real cover-ups are these things are going to millionaires, billionaires, royalty, politicians, okay? And it's been proven time and time again. Look into people like Lord Mountbatten. Do you think it's okay that Jimmy Savile, now a notorious serial pedophile, someone who was also a necrophiliac and raped women in hospice, this man who was actually talked about to be Prince, I believe it was Prince Harry's godfather. Gee, I wonder why he left. I wonder why he did that interview. It's so crazy he wanted to leave the royal family. But that's the thing, man. And the Clown and the Candyman really lays it out and how things go missing. And there's only so much there. But the darkness of that is what also kind of like pushed me forward and motivated me to say, you know, that is just plain evil. There is no morality you're going to sell me on. And if those same people, again, are selling me on, I need a brain chip, or I need a boop boop, or I need this to do that, I'm not down like a clown, Charlie Brown. I'm going to fight it. Like it's that simple, Jay. So, man, I just hope people, and maybe that's been the most frustrating thing about the QAnon sense, right? Is that I've been doing this for so long and showing these people for so long. And when I talk about it, I'm like, hey, what about Dennis Hassard? Hey, what about Mark Foley? Hey, what about Anthony Weiner? Hey, what about Ed Murray? I keep going. I mean, there's a lot of them. You know what I mean? But no. I got to watch South Park throwing Oprah Winfrey and fucking Tom Hanks up with adrenochrome. And like they actually, if you haven't seen it yet, they actually start it with a segment, like when they start getting into this, of Epstein hanging himself. So now, like, if you talk about Epstein, now you talk about adrenochrome and Oprah and Hanks and all this other stuff that does get into SRA and some of the darker stuff that came out via Paul Bonacci and Alicia Owens and Troy Bonner, right? That all gets waved by the wayside, right? Because people want fantastical stuff. It's the same people that want to believe in superheroes on message boards. Yo, I'm telling you right now, you're the superhero. If you're watching this on a phone, black it out for a second, look at the reflection, realize it's you. You got to be it. Because I'm telling you right now, no one's coming to save you. We got a militarized DC. We got a zombie president there that can barely speak, right? We have no accountability whatsoever for elections or media. We have massive tech censorship going on, okay? And we have gaslighting happening at a level that is scary. For instance, you look at even Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, I talk about the QAnon nonsense. You're still allowed to post whatever you want. That woman won a seat in Congress. They convicted her of a thought crime and kicked her off of 2 committees that she was elected to serve on. And guess what? Right now, they got 73 Democrats signed up to just kick her out of Congress altogether. So now you don't even have to commit a crime. You just posted something that wasn't true or someone didn't like, and you're guilty of a thought crime, so you can't hold office? You already beat a very corrupt system and you can't hold office? That doesn't seem very American to me, Jay. That doesn't seem like that's going to give me more freedom. So, you know, it's hard to stay upbeat about it, but I mean, I'm going to have a good time fighting it. I hope you are too. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, you reminded me of the serial killer deep dive that we've done lately. I mean, I know that's not very cheerful material, but when you got into Savile, there's all these interesting connections between Savile and these networks of contract and serial killers. And so I was separately reading about serial killers. I didn't expect it to tie into these, these big global elite networks. And sure enough, it does, because black markets, right, this kind of stuff, obviously it's going to tie directly into contract killers. And in so many cases, you've got a direct connection between serial killers, MK Ultra. In fact, I just last night was doing a bunch of research on Ted Bundy for the present series that I'm doing on serial killers. I didn't know there's actually 2 high-level CIA connections to the character of Ted Bundy. Now, I have to say, I mean, even though, you and I, we study this stuff all the time, I still hear things and I think there's no way, right? Surely not. You can't, Ted Bundy can't be connected to these CIA guys. Well, guess what? He lives with a guy who is a State Department, looks like a CIA guy by the name of Mueller. Ted Bundy lives with him for a year. Ted Bundy was involved in a operation, or a program at least, at the university that he was at, where he was tasked with going in and trying to steal some files. Well, he just happens to be stealing files from a guy who would later become a representative, who would later be a CIA operative, McDermott. So, and if you don't, I mean, not you, but for those in the audience that don't know, Ted Bundy was actually an up-and-coming GOP rising star. As many of these serial killers actually happen to be highly politically connected. In fact, you can go look up the famous picture of John Wayne Gacy with Rosalind Carter, Jimmy Carter's wife. Now, why are so many of these serial killers? Well, it's because what tends to be the case, and as Jason mentioned with regard to the Clown and Candyman podcast, two famous serial killers now have a direct connection via a guy named Paskey, who is this sort of weirdo guy who works with a PRO at Prawn Network by a guy named John David Norman, who was a creeper who had one of the largest networks in the 70s of pimping kids out. This was connected to the Epstein operation in the 70s, known as the North Fox Island operation. It was an Epstein-style operation in the 70s. And again, so here we have a serial killer in Dallas, Texas, the Candyman, Dean Corll, connected to John David Norman, who is pimping people, boys, etc. And then he has a guy working under him named Paskey, who was burying bodies for John Wayne Gacy at Gacy's house. So I just listened last night, in fact, to phone conversations that somebody had with Gacy about these things. Now, again, obviously it's not true just because John Wayne Gacy claims it. The point is that John Wayne Gacy had said for many, many years, others were involved, had accomplices, and nobody really knew what that was. Well, actually now even local news stations are reporting on the John Wayne Gacy had accomplices, because they've actually turned up hard evidence with this character of Paskey, who again connects multiple networks and at least two serial killers. So this is not unique to Gacy. This also comes up in the situation with people that can connect Manson and the circles of Manson to Berkowitz. Anyway, I'm not going to rant on all my serial killer stuff.
Well, let's just say this too, because I think another really important aspect of that Clown and the Candyman podcast is that it's 8 parts, right? And there's probably a 10 to 15 minute section somewhere in there where they also talk about a character named Richard Lang. Mm-hmm. And this guy, apparently when they catch him, he's raping 2 young boys and filming it. And he's manufacturing this child porn. And these detectives both believe that he was CIA, even though they couldn't prove it.
Oh, yes, that guy. That's right.
Yeah,
yes,
because he also had the credentials to be, I believe it was a colonel in the Army, the Navy, and the Marines, which was completely impossible that he could be accordingly. But they looked at this stuff and it all looked real.
I forgot about him.
And the other thing that should strike people about Gacy is, not only accomplices, but one of the things they try to really erase is the fact that some of his victims were caught because he was dressing up like a police officer. Now, he didn't, not only, he would come up, basically find somebody on the street, pat him down, put him in cuffs, and that's the end of them. And they only know about 33. It's probably a lot more people. And you talked about, for instance, Carter's wife. Well, they talk about in this podcast, Gacy knowing not only a lot of people in the community, but it was either the governor of Illinois or the mayor of Chicago, some high-level figure at these things. So, people need to do their research and see how much documentation is actually already available. You just mentioned Manson. At the very least, do yourself a favor and watch the 4-hour podcast of Joe Rogan interviewing that author.
Oh, Tom O'Neill. Tom O'Neill, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes. By the way, we'll be covering Tom O'Neill's book too in the serial killer talks that I'll be doing, because that's going to be really, really relevant. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to believe it, but yes, in almost, not every serial killer, because actually dozens of them, but in many, many cases, we find these patterns of CIA connections, high-level military intelligence connections. Almost all of them have a period of military service. Many of them, in fact, are trained killers, connections to Phoenix program, etc. But yeah, thank you for reminding me about that guy. And by the way, don't forget, in the Clown and Candyman podcast, there's one episode that's about high-level GM executives being involved in Satanism, and the exact same stuff. Another situation where the accomplices, or at least one accomplice actually was found, is in the case of Leonard Lake and Charles Ng. They were both busted, and we know, in fact, that in that case, that at least one accomplice was caught. So the idea that many of these serial killers don't have accomplices is ludicrous, because just like the Patsy idea around Oswald, they'll portray these people as just lone nuts. And most of the time, with the really high-profile people, even Dahmer, there's evidence, at least in initial police reports, where you'll have these claims of had accomplices. And a lot of times they go free. Look at Mark Dutroux. Mark Dutroux had accomplices. He wasn't procuring people for himself. It was for the Belgian elite. Everybody knows this, right? So had accomplices, right? Because they're doing this for other people. One last example I'll leave you with, which I mentioned in one of my streams, is that Savile, the Yorkshire Ripper, Peter Sutcliffe, one of the bodies was found on Savile's property. So here you have, but what his best friend, literally, the Yorkshire Ripper's best friend is Savile. Savile is best friend with another serial killer, literally. I forget her name. It's a woman and a man. I forget their name, but she was a witch, and she's best friends with Savile. And Savile's also, Ian somebody, is best friends with Peter Sutcliffe. And who are they best friends with? The elites, the British Royals. So this is very real. By the way, there's a series. I just finished the Red Riding series. And the whole series, it's like a BBC style series. 3 installments from 2009. The first one has Andrew Garfield in it before he was really famous. That whole series is about the Yorkshire Ripper, and the BBC series has the elites literally running the operation and the cops. The cops are compromised. The cops and the local elites, millionaires, billionaires, run the operation. It's a network of killers, and I'm not going to spoil it for you. Can you guess who's running the PRON pedo network? It's an Episcopal priest, right? So there you go. All in the fiction. They love to put this stuff in the fiction, right?
Well, all right. So let's talk about fiction, because one of the most brilliant pieces of fiction, in my opinion, that's totally nailed this stuff, and in my opinion, nailed it to the point in the first season where I was extremely excited to see what they did next, was True Detective.
True Detective, yes, exactly.
Yeah, because, I mean, not only did they kick it off with flavors of occultism, whether it be the pictures in the house, the frames of the video you get to see before whatever happens to these girls happens, but by the end of it, just like you say, they have mass graves, they have somebody who's connected to elite people.
All right. Maybe we're back. All right. Yeah. Okay. What happened? The internet crashed again. So that's 2 in a row. Don't think it's gonna work tonight. So we'll go ahead and do the super chats, and then Bermas and I will just do a separate stream doing a part 2. So there's no point in trying to do this if it's just gonna keep crashing. So I'll try to get to these super chats. Cosmos says for $5, what city state would you guys recommend if they moved to, if they were in somewhere like New York? Well, the South is pretty good. Please don't bring your New Yorkism to the South. We don't want gross Yankees bringing evil Yankee doctrines to the South, such as 100% taxation and all of the other nonsense. So please don't bring that when you come down there. But Tennessee, Florida, those are looking pretty hype right now. But, I mean, yeah, I'm glad for the moves of Florida, but that's, what's going to happen when, right, the governor is no longer governor. So we don't know, right? I mean, there's no place that's going to be perfect, but, I mean, any of these places would be better than damn New York, dude. Ugh. I need to be near an Orthodox parish. Yeah. There's quite a few Orthodox churches in Florida. Not too many in Tennessee, though. John Cano. Gazastamaz. $5. Twin tower. Represent male and female. Only one rebuilt. Thus Baphomet. Male, female fused as genderless. 9 is a sacred number. 11 is a master number. Bush reads I Pet Goat. Well, kids, yeah, that's true. John Cant, Gazastamaz, $5. I love when AJ, infiltrates Le Grove and refers to W as wearing a pink choo-choo, foaming at the mouth with purple wig on. Wouldn't surprise me. Gazastamaz for $4.20 says, I get Amber Alerts here in Utah. I think they are under the Mormon temple and use them for doping. Don't know. Although, who knows? Gazastamaz for $3.33. I would like to apologize to Bermas. I left a rude comment when he was with We Are Changed. Please forgive me. I'm sure that Mr. Bermas will forgive you. And if you want to follow his work, you can follow him, of course, on his channel. And also over on Rokfin. I have links to his show. And I just got my Rokfin stuff set up. So that's going to be fun. Nasty crap in my mouth, dude. This computer has left a nasty email in my mouth, flavor in my mouth. I've been licking the screen, kissing, trying to get it to work, spitting on it, punching it, and it's not working. Now I got a bad taste in my mouth. Maybe it's that coffee. Ugh. Anyway, so my Rokfin thing is set up. It's going to be fun. We're going to do exclusive content over there. When I got my thing set up, but they haven't done my page yet. So there's not anything that you can click on yet, but I'm all registered with Rokfin. So I think we're going to do a weekly separate show over there. Jamie will join me. It'll be kind of like, what you see me do around these parts. We're going to still do what we do here, but we're going to do things there. So it's not going to be that different. But I may expand, talk about other things. You know what I mean? We don't have to always talk about nasty, gross creepers all the time. Ooh, ugh. Why you want to talk about that all the time? I don't. That's why we're going to talk about other stuff. You see. So, I've been having it in my mind to talk about other things, and that's what we're probably going to do over there. But it's going to be fun. It's going to be a laid-back style. Jamie and I will talk about new topics. We'll talk about current events. We'll talk about all kinds of things. And I will continue to go wild on camera and act like a fool. I know I haven't actually been singing and performing and being your little dancing monkey in a long time. And I feel the desire to do that. I want to come back as that dancing monkey that you all love so much. Because you guys throw that damn money at me, right? I feel like a beautiful Vegas stripper, the way y'all just throw those super chats at me when I act like a fool and sing stupid songs. We don't need another hero. We don't need to find the way home. All we want is what's beyond. Nothing but home. See? I got a super chat now from doing that nonsense. Anyway. Maybe we'll just do a karaoke episode. I don't even know. Right? Look at that. Look at that. I sing Thunderdome in a extremely creepy, effeminate voice, and you send me $5. sit here talking about creeper serial killers and mind control, and John Connor sends $3.33, right, with his magical gematria numbers trying to put spells on us over here. Anyway, so we're going to have fun with the show. We'll probably do about a once a week show over on Rokfin, or maybe more. Maybe I'll feel inclined to do more. We don't know. But yeah, hopefully you heard Jason's selling pitch at the beginning, which was good, right? I think there's some good stuff over there. And our boy Tristan, right? He's on Rokfin. Our boy Sam Tripoli over on Rokfin. Our boy Richard Grove over on Rokfin. Our friends over at OMDB podcast. They're on Rokfin. Who? Isaac, your boy Isaac over there, talking a bunch of drama. He got drama streams over there, talking crazy talk over there. He put me on one of his crazy talk drama stream, trying to stir stuff, trying to backbite over there, backbiting. I'm just joking. We love you, Isaac. There's somebody else I wanted to mention. Ricky Varadanas, or however you say his name. He's a friend of ours. He's over there. And then all them jiu-jitsu boys over there. You like your little jiu-jitsu boy? Chopping your throat a little bit? Huh? Making you cough a little? Is that what you like? You like getting beat up by a jiu-jitsu boy? They got that over there. They got every damn jiu-jitsu podcast you could ever think of. Right? Even the ones you can't think of, they got them over there. There's a lot of UFC podcasts over at Rokfin, which is fine. Right? Which is fine. We're going to do... a pillow fight podcast, right? I'm going to have the Ultimate Pillow Fighting Championship, which is a little bit of a lighter kind of Ultimate Fighting Championship, right? So it's a little softer for us soft boys over here that we're not used to that, physical contact with an actual fist. We're used to pillow fights, right? I mean, I built a lot of pillow forts in my day. We had a lot of pillow fights. I would probably say I was 5-0 in pillow fights, because I would like you if you wrap around, the cloth part and then you let the pillow like squish all into the corner of it. Whap! You get a good whap on somebody, right? You could even potentially knock somebody at least down to the ground. I don't know about out, but you could knock somebody to the ground with a pillow. I at least knocked a few of my friends to the ground with a pillow. So. We will have a podcast just devoted to pillow fighting. Michael Valerio for $5. Thank you for helping me find orthodoxy in everything that you do. Do a review of the esoteric undertones of Dragnet. Actually, Jamie and I watched Dragnet a couple months ago, and we took notes on it. It's kind of in our stack of we're not sure how to classify that yet. So yeah, we will probably eventually do Dragnet, yes. But lately, what we've been doing is Jamie, my wife, Jamie Hanshaw, not Jamie Deluxe. I think he is over there too, though. We classify the movies together. Tomorrow is serial killer movies. We've been doing the serial killer stream. Tomorrow is the serial killer movies. Obviously, that makes it Clarice, right? That'll come tomorrow. We have reviewed the top 8 or so serial killer movies and one documentary about a guy I didn't know about, H.H. Holmes. I didn't know about him. That dude is crazy. Wow. Right, to use an Owen Wilsonism here. What else? Oh, and then the part 2 of the serial killers talk is coming because I finished all of the Lowellfield videos. I did the whole archive. And so don't come telling me to watch Lowellfield's videos. I watched them all. There's a couple of the 1 and 2 hour podcasts that I haven't heard, but I've heard all the other clips. So I got about 50 pages of notes on all that archive footage and more. And I found some really wild stuff, as I said earlier, on Ted Bundy. Why is he living for a year with a dude who's obviously a high-level military intelligence person who was stationed in Antarctica, Operation Deep Freeze? this dude lives with Ted Bundy for like a year? You can't make that. This is in the actual police reports. Okay. So this is not conspiracy theory. And then he's stealing the files from a person who becomes a representative who is another CIA operative. But where is any of this in the Ted Bundy documentaries? Oh, it's nowhere. Yeah. Does no one feel the need to discuss some obvious important details here? I mean, what the heck is going on, right? Anyway, yeah. So the other thing was that I found a TV episode on Lowell Field's archives that was pretty crazy that backs up Dave McGowan. So the Henry Lee Lucas thing, somebody left a comment when I mentioned Henry. And they said he was lying. And yes, that's correct. Now I know Dave said that, but I found that there's a whole episode of some old TV show that's like a documentary TV show, true crime show. And they interviewed Vic Feazell, the lawyer who took the Texas Rangers and that whole crew that seems to be kind of working or using Henry Lee Lucas to court, and he won his court case because they went after him. Now, he didn't get Henry Lee Lucas off because it ended up being Bush commuting the sentence, which is bizarre. But yes, Henry Lee Lucas was lying because they used a wandering indigent, a damn soup can Sam Henry Lee Lucas, took the fall for all of these open cases. That's pretty obvious now, especially if you watch the episode of that show. So I did want to qualify my analysis of Henry, which is not to say that he wasn't necessarily part of the Hand of Death cult, but that he could have been part of it and used, you see, because it doesn't appear that this cult was just some mere low-level thing. This is a well-connected operation. And so the lawyer who found all this out back in the day, he started talking about this, and they sicked the feds on him and tried to go after him for everything they could think of, and they couldn't get anything. And he took them back to court and won $58 million. That's crazy. Wow, right? So, yeah, that's a crazy story. Anyway, we'll go into that in the part 2 when we cover the Henry Lee Lucas, and I'll link that archived video. Anyway, thank you guys. Sorry for the many technical issues tonight. Can't do much about if the internet crashes. So, and then if the Mac crashes on top of it, we had double problems tonight. Did Ted Bundy know that the guy was? Probably not, because it comes up later in... Now, we don't know. So part of what's not known is, number one, there's at least 3. So he's in the psychology department with multiple PhDs. He's studying deviant behavior. Ted Bundy's even allowed to do analysis with no degree or qualification. He's like analyzing people as part of his college program under this woman who's Professor Lundberg or something like that, like a Swedish chick. And I mean, then we all know, right, that MK Ultra was at dozens of universities, dozens of programs. We don't know for sure that Ted's program was MK Ultra. It's very plausible, but we don't know. But it does, again, suggest something more going on with the fact that 2 of his, during his college years, 2 people directly associated with him clearly have some degree of high-level connections going on. And that's, again, suspicious. So, anyway, we'll get into that later on. And I'll have the sources for where I'm getting all this material to, by the way. I'm not just saying it. But thank you, guys. Sorry it was bad stuff tonight. But, whatever.